Okay, my G650GS, which is 1.5 years old, appears to have a dead battery or very weak battery. I had my bike on the trickle charger up to a few seconds ago, and the green LED indicator is blinking, indicating the battery is still good. This is a false indicator because I know that I tried to start this bike this morning and it failed on me. Actually, it failed a couple days ago, and I left the bike hooked to the trickle charger for over 2 days and there's still no battery. I hope it's battery. If I crank it up, it will probably quit on me. Let's see. Yes. Not good. It does not do anything. I'm gonna shut it down. I mean, it's doing that by itself, checking all the systems again by itself. And by the way, I'm not a mechanic. I know very little about engines, but I think I'll be able to take a look at the battery, try to fix or replace it, and let's see what's going on. My first task is to remove this GV box that I installed, the mono key system, and that's pretty easy. I just press the button down here, it unlocks, and let me start. Now that my top tail block is removed, I have access to a lever that will remove the seat, and eventually I have to remove this panel. I'm gonna get the key. Open up the box. Done. Pull the lever. And remove the seat. So next step is to remove this panel. I could do that using a regular screwdriver. It's actually a star screwdriver, or I have this drill that I attached at the end, the same bit, and I will go ahead and remove this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bolts, and hopefully lift off this panel. I may have to remove the oil cap as well. Let me see. Let me put the phone down, because not only am I trying to do this, but I'm trying to film as well all at the same time and learn all at the same time. Hold on. Okay, all screws are out. I'm removing the oil cap that I actually had to use a plier to pry it open. I'm gonna sit it over here, and that's the tool that I use to open the oil cap. And now the panel should come loose now. I remove 10 screws, and the panel is coming off. Ta-da! And that's the battery. All right. Lay this over here on the floor. And that's the battery. It has a belt to cinch the battery into place, and I can see there's plugs in here. That means this is a conventional old school battery that usually needs some type of a maintenance. Yes, BMW has installed a non-maintenance free battery. It usually is a combination of acid and distilled water. So what happens is usually the engine heats up, and heats up a lot, and the distilled water evaporates, and what's left in the battery is the acid. So what probably I'll need to do is to refill this empty or semi-empty holes with distilled water. Let's see if that holds true. And by the way, I just found here in the back, where is it? A little pouch with some tools that I can use if I want to do this manually. I'll just leave that alone and move on to my project. Okay, now I have a professional camera person to film. I can do a better job in concentrating and removing this little battery. So these screws here are very tiny, and the bolts are very tiny too. It took me a while to pull this out. So now it's the time to remove the battery. All the cables, I started to remove negative first, positive last, as is the common rule to remove batteries, not the other way around. And here it is, the battery, the old-fashioned battery. So I see here two levels, maximum and minimum. And looking against the light, it appears to be below the minimum. Can you see that? Yep. It seems to be not much below, but so what I'll do, I'll refill this with distilled water by removing each one of these plugs and see what happens. Okay, now I'm just opening up each one of these plugs and removing each one of them, and I'll add distilled water to a point where the line is at the maximum. Just use distilled water with the help of a funnel to insert water into the battery. As you can see, the right hand side, the right hand column is already filled all the way to the maximum almost. And now we're going to the other columns. A little break here just to show that you see the levels. This column here is almost filled. It's over here. The second one, putting water at 3/4 of the way filled. Look at how low the level is here on the fourth column. Very, very low. You can see because against the light I can see a very pale, see-through almost a column over here, and the ones that I have filled 1, 2, 3, 4, they're getting there. So I'll keep on pouring distilled water into these really tiny little holes with this oversized funnel. Yes, I do not have the proper tools, but I'm trying my best. Okay, now I'm putting the battery back in its case. It's usually, so to remove it, we do negative, then positive. To install positive, then negative. It's a small battery. I think it's completely out of charge. I refilled with distilled water as much as I could. Tighten these little screws here, these little plastic screws with this wrench, and there's this little belt in here that's kind of loose, but that's fine. And pay attention, on this right hand side, at least in my model, there is a little hole in a hose. I don't think you can see the hose, but there is a hose attached to it, and this hose is used for water to flow out of. I think the hose is in place. It's really hard to get, but you can see that, you know, that's probably where the water evaporated, went up from the battery into this hose and dripped down on the floor. I was puzzled to see where, I mean, this is a sealed battery, where the water can escape, and it escapes through the evaporation process through that little hole into the hose to the floor. Okay, the bike is fully assembled now, and it's good to go. Glad it did not take more than half an hour. I'm an amateur, not a professional. mechanics. So job done. Time to test it out. I still need to finish screwing the battery in place with these little tiny screws that are so hard to get, especially if you don't have the proper tools. But I'll do a test run first. I see an odd message on the dash saying ignition off, I guess. But anyway, I'll give it a try. Just install the battery provisionally. Everything is naked still. Crank it up. ABS. Doing the test. I have not recharged the battery yet. Just added water, but let's see. Oh my God, it's working. I love it.